Hello and welcome to Moving Communities Case Studies. Today, I'm really privileged to be joined by Mark Wildman from Sandwell Leisure Trust. Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
Morning, David. I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. Mark, I've had the pleasure and privilege of doing things like quest assessments and doing some learning and development with you and your teams. So I've got a nice feel for who Sandwell Leisure Trust are and what they do. Can you just explain where you are in the country, what you are at Sandwell Leisure Trust, and the types of challenges you find in your location?
Yes, certainly. As you say, I'm Mark Wildman, Business and Commercial Manager and Deputy CEO for Sandwell Leisure Trust. We manage sport and leisure facilities across the borough of Sandwell. We also work closely with our public health team, and we manage a number of initiatives linked to other providers, including AgeWell and other partners within the community. Sandwell is a very diverse area. Many people across the UK don't actually know Sandwell. They know Birmingham when you say it, but they don't know where Sandwell is. But Sandwell is made up of the 6 towns. And from an operational point of view, that does bring its challenges, because effectively you're almost working on 6 individual towns as a collective under Sandwell Leisure Trust. It also gives some advantages, and you've seen this through some of the campaigns, is that you almost have 6 bites of the cherry to do specific campaigns in those areas. But anybody managing our services knows, the difficulties in trying to give a clear message across the whole community from an organisation, but at the same time really target the people on the ground. I think the diverse nature does bring a lot of enrichment and opportunities. Having said that, as a lot of operators I'm sure are experiencing, recruitment is a real challenge at the moment. We do have a fantastic opportunity on the horizon with Sandwell Aquatic Centre that's going to be opening in 2023, and after the Commonwealth Games this will then be a legacy facility for the wider community to use. So it's around a £70 million facility. It will be the largest swimming and aquatic facility of its kind, and it replaces a number of the older facilities in the borough that are around 1933 buildings, your real traditional older type services. And one of our real focuses has been how that facility is not just a showcase fantastic facility that hosted world-class games. It's actually something for the local community to enjoy, and part of that process is engaging the local community, particularly in the heart of Smethwick, which is a very high baying community. It's got high levels of deprivation, but also, I think in Sandwell, we are privileged that we've had a lot of investment, and we've worked closely with the local authority on making sure that the investment into the leisure portfolio generates not just the best income, but also provides the best services for people in the borough. So it is a challenging borough to work in, but it's also a borough where I believe there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of chances. We've been fortunate to attract quite a bit of external funding into the borough because of the operational nature, and we recently did quite a good social value survey, which was based on the 2019 figures. And again, that shows the real benefits that we provide with partners in tackling crime, supporting health and well-being, and trying to really provide services that reduce the amount of pressure on the NHS and health services. We are fortunate that a couple of facilities, Portway in particular over in Albury, has got a GP surgery on its site, and that's a real showcase facility to show how we can work closely with health and the GP providers by referring people directly into the leisure centres, as opposed to having to go to different venues. So all in all, David, I mean, yes, the pandemic has been difficult, and it still is difficult, and it's a long recovery process coming out of that. But I think the opportunities, particularly around swimming, are huge. I think swimming has been the biggest comeback that we've seen in swimming lessons and in attendances, and we want to keep that momentum going. And I think looking forward, Sandwell Aquatic Centre is something to really have something to focus on, both for staff and across the Black Country, to say, look, there are some really fantastic facilities going to be coming on board for the wider community to enjoy. And I think that's important. It's not just about elitism. And although it will bring things like diving and other things that haven't been in the borough before, it's also an amazing facility for local people to enjoy.
No, absolutely. And you talk about a lot of those facilities. They're absolutely stunning facilities, but they're not the most effective or efficient facilities. And to have that Commonwealth piece coming along, I think is really important. But you mentioned things like social value, and you've mentioned the importance of swimming and things like that. The Moving Communities platform has, I guess, assisted you to show where those comebacks are coming from, the swimming lessons, etc. So what type of things have you found out from the Moving Communities data on usage and participation, for example?
Well, I mean, two of the things that we saw is the utilisation by younger people was a lot higher than anything we have seen before. And I think, again, that links to the swimming lessons and everything else. And we certainly saw that as a trend. But the other area that we noticed was actually the underutilisation compared to some of our other nationals around older people. And I think that's a real opportunity for us. We've also seen some areas where when you look at the utilisation at certain times to help us look at more family orientated activities. Now, one investment that we made as a direct result, looking at the moving communities, early information and some of the trends that we saw from the social value report, was bringing in a product called Aqua Mayhem over to one of our swimming facilities, and that was probably the most successful product as part of the recovery, because it was the first new thing we could bring on board as centres were coming online. And again, in Wednesbury, that was something that brought something new there. And as you're getting families starting to do things together, we all know pool inflatables aren't a new thing, but actually the way that we sold that and the way that we was trying to encourage people to come and exercise safely in a really nice environment at a new centre, all of the ingredients were right. And I think that shows that if you can get those things working together and get the confidence, and we've spent a lot of time on customer testimonials, on looking at where, you know, the gaps are and where the utilisation shows that those trends, you know, we need to target those communities. If you can get local people representing the service and enjoying that, you'll just build that confidence. And I think it's how we use that and use the information on a regular basis with our managers to understand what's happening and try and look at, okay, how can we target those pockets of the community to get them using the services more?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. You've talked about Aqua Mayhem, Mayhem and inflatable on the pool, but you've talked about exercise, and it's a really interesting link how fun, excitement, something new, something different, something that's a treat can really work very, very well. You know, you've got high levels of BAME populations, you've got high levels of deprivation in your areas. But when you start looking at your numbers in moving communities, you've had a really strong bounce back. So do you put it down to the programming? Do you put it down to the localities? You know, you've talked about 6 different towns with 6 different identities. What's your gut feel on why you've done so well in attracting a higher proportion of those people who lived in deprived areas or from ethnic backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds?
I think when we look at it overall, it is a combination of factors, David, and the concessionary scheme is still strong. You know, the fact that we still offer concessions for people on low income. We still have a free swimming scheme, which I know can be unpopular with some operators, but it's still been hugely popular here. We've got a lot of water around in the boroughs, you know, a lot of swimming pools, and that is something that still continues to be highly popular. And I think those areas, we do still give the choice. So a customer can pay as you go, they can be a member, they can have a concession, and therefore you've got the complete arsenal to help with people having a real choice of value in the facilities. And when you look at places like Wednesbury, like Portway, like Tipton, like the new Sandwell Aquatic Centre, and I don't want to take anything away, you know our centres really well, and we've got some older ones, but there are some really fantastic services there and fantastic facilities, and the quality's good. And we although sometimes you can't do anything about the age of the buildings, what we try to do is invest in the quality of the equipment that's in there is as good as anywhere else. And therefore, when a customer comes in, they know that they are still accessing equipment that's as good as anywhere else, and they've got the choice. They don't have to be a member. And our teams, you know, they want to sell memberships like anybody else, but customers have a choice. And I think it's because of that and because of the locations, you know, they always say location is key. You know, yes, there are a lot of facilities on each other's doorstep, but I think the reopening out of recovery, David, has given the opportunity to actually look at the programming and say, okay, do we need to open the same times as we did previously, or actually can we change it to be more optimal? And I think we have used this opportunity through the recovery as a chance to say, okay, let's just open the doors as we did previously. Let's really look at when are those times that actually support our customers the most and support the business. And I think that's a real opportunity that we've talked to other operators and they're doing the same. And I think sometimes it's too easy to stick with what you've always done. And you know, it's always a risk, isn't it, to try something different, but you have to be brave.
I'm really interested in that, Mark, because when we talk about locality, we tend to talk about Sandwell, but actually you're now talking about those 6 towns that make up Sandwell. And what's the difference in the profile, whether it be the demographic profile, the working profile, the working from home profile, even I would imagine, comes into all of this conversation. So from that point of view, what are you planning? What are you looking at the future? You've had some great ideas that have worked. What's the next risk that you want to take?
I think for us, it's about looking at some of the opportunities to work and support the wider region. We do a lot of work with Active Black Country, and one of the recent discussions around recruitment, and I'm sure anybody listening to this who works in our sector knows the challenges around swimming teacher recruitment. And we're working with Active Black Country to look at how can we target and get more people from the BAME communities to look at leisure as a real opportunity to work and as have a career. And again, using case studies, using people as examples to show, look, you can actually get a career in leisure. You can actually, work in this industry. And I think Simspa have done some fantastic things to champion this and to be the real advocates of our profession, which is as it should be. And I think working in the Black Country, facilities now, and particularly a number of our facilities which sit on the border, they show that actually we do pull a lot of people in from across the border. So looking at the programming and looking at the targeting, for us moving forward, we've got a number of opportunities where Moving Communities information is supporting that, and through other research, looking at the playing field strategy and looking at a number of opportunities where we can say, okay, what investments do we need to make moving forward? And another area, for example, is on football pitches. We know there is a lack of football pitches being identified in this area, and again, we've got a number of programs to look at how we can get serious investment into changing some of our provision to support that. And that's only one area, but when you look at girls football, women's football, and you look at all of the targeted areas, there's so much work that we can still do. And I think for the first time, David, I have to say, Moving Communities, I believe he's giving us really good insight. There's more work to do. We've got to make sure our information is populating it well, but it's giving first access for us and the local authority to understand what's going on, but also benchmark properly with some confidence. And I think that's a real benefit of this, and you can do it in a confident way, and you don't worry about, how the data has been shared, because you can see it and you understand that, and you've got some confidence that actually it's something that's been used nationally across all operators. And I think that's a real strength.
That's really positive. And of course, you commissioned a social value report to 2019, but now we've got social value on the Moving Communities piece. And looking at your social value, you're creating more social value than the majority of the national operators out there and a lot of the communities. Now, I guess the starting point for you is the population makeup does assist you, I guess, in getting those people, more people like that add value to the social value. How have you used that with your local authority partners, the social value stuff?
Well, what we've shown them, for the first time, the local authority have got access to that social value, and they understand now, not just at a global level, which was I think, over £16 million of social value back overall, which was above the national average, but was able to show them facility by facility. And one facility alone, this was a really important part, David, is one facility alone generated more social value than the complete management fee that's provided to the whole estate for Sandwell. And I think with that one point alone, you could say, okay, certain operators would say, well, a management fee is a luxury, but when you're operating legacy facilities and they want things like free swimming and other things and concessions, they do require a subsidy. You've got to balance that off with income. But what the social value report showed was actually the contribution made on tackling crime and health is giving far more back to the local authority than what they're paying. So if you look at pound for pound and you look at actual best value, if you like, which is a term that's been around for some time, the social value far outweighs the amount of management fee that's been provided. And so for an authority, we know our public health director was really pleased to see that, and again, they could use that to show, look, the investment in leisure is actually showing an improvement in health and in reducing crime and education, and that's the real strength of having that. And I think looking at it, going back to the 6 towns, David, we was able to break that down and say, what is each facility providing in social value back, and what globally are we providing back as an entity? Yeah.
Mark, that has been absolutely fascinating. Our time, as I knew, would absolutely fly by. So thank you so much for your insight. People can get in contact with you via your website at Sandwell Leisure Trust.
They can, yeah.
If there's anything they want, we can pass those details on as well. So Mark, thank you so much for your time. You take care, and I'm looking forward to catching up soon. Cheers.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.